a lot of people will start with a little bit of money or at least at zero. I started in the hole.
Right.
And which was really funny. And so a lot of people, I ask, I says, there's a lot of ways you can come in and become in real estate. Number one, you can just buy your way into the market. You've got millions of dollars. You're good. You're a real estate investor.
Right. Start buying pieces and you're good.
You're good. But you need money, but you also need knowledge. Mm-hmm. And whether you're being mentored by somebody or partnering with somebody that has knowledge, you go to school maybe and learn a little bit. So there's many, many different ways. But but in many cases, a lot of people have nothing.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. I have Kevin Oliver, and he's got a story for you. Go, Kevin.
Hi, Christina. How are you? Thanks for having me. And what's happening in real estate investing in Kevin's world today, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
As we were jumping on this camera, I was actually reading a legal complaint and no, we're not being sued, but we are suing somebody.
Yes.
It happens in our business, and unfortunately it does. But the funny story is that, Conrad, my business partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sitting in my home office due to COVID, right? I'm not out. And I get a text and it says, Kevin, did you put solar panels on Terrace Way? And I kind of look at him like, no. And he sends me a picture of our roof because we had just put a brand new roof on this house. And it's one of our group homes that we had. Okay. And he sends me a picture of all the solar panels up on this house. And I said, well, that's beautiful. I says, but no, I did not order it. Did you? And he says, no, of course not.
Would be talking to you if I had.
And I said, okay. So I called the tenant and I said, hey, and I'm going to kind of leave the names out, but
gotta leave the names out.
Yeah. And I said, did you authorize the solar panels on the house? And she says, no, I thought you did.
Oh no!
No. And I'm like, okay, do you know who put them in there? She's like, no, she's clueless. She's a tenant, right?
But there was somebody showed up installing it. Did they install it as part of I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead in the story. Keep telling the story. Go ahead.
So yeah, we do. So you know what? I go down and I said, well, they had to pull a permit, right? So I go down to the county building because this is in the county, not in the city. And I talk to one of the people down there and says, hey, has there been any permits pulled for such and such a street address?
Right.
And they said, yeah, there's a solar permit here. I said, can I get a copy of that, please? And they're like, who are you? And I said, I'm the owner.
I'm the
owner. And so I get a copy of it and I look at it and it says it's this one particular company, very large. And from there, I look at and there's a name on there. And so I go down to their office that's here in our city. And I said, hey, is so-and-so here? And they're like, no, she no longer works for us. And I'm like, oh, well, who do I talk about this permit on my house? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, what's the matter? And I says, well, you installed a solar system on this house without authorization. They're like, well, you need to talk to our attorneys.
Immediately.
And I'm like, well, isn't there anybody here? She's like, well, there's the assistant director of operations, whatever is there. And so I ended up talking with her. Okay. She brings up the stuff on the computer and they're like, is your name such and such? And I'm like, no, here's my business card. This is my name. And my name is Kevin Oliver. I'm the owner of this house.
Right.
And one of the principal managing partner of Kevin's Hat, which is the name of the corporation that this is being held in. Right. And so she brings up this file and I see the bills, the PG&E bills from our tenant. And I says, well, that's my tenant. And she says, okay, that's great, but is so-and-so what this name is? And I said, who signed the contract? Can I get copies of the contract?
Who signed the contract?
And I said, who signed it? She said, no, we're looking for this person's name, which I have never heard of before. And I call my partner. I said, hey, do you know who so-and-so is? He says, no. And I call the tenant, same thing. No, never heard of this person. And I said, nobody's ever heard of this person. She's like, well, we need to have you talk. Can I? And I told her, I said, can I get a copy of that? She's like, well, I'm going to have to, at this point there, everybody's lawyering.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, no, you need to go talk to our attorneys. And I said, okay. And she says, they will be contacting you in about 3 to 4 days. I said, here's my information. Have them call me. So we wait 3, 4 days, 5 days, a week.
Nobody calls.
Ghost, right? So I'm walking our dogs. I have 2 Rottweilers that I walk with my wife, and and she works for a law firm. And one of the attorneys happened to be walking with us. And I'm telling this story, right? And she says, you need to talk to so-and-so, our attorney. And I says, all right. And I know who he is. I've known him for years. And so I give him a call and I says, hey, James.
Kevin, blah, blah, yeah.
We need to, and I tell him this story. And he says, yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't hear that one very often.
And I'm like, yeah, I thought so too. And I said, you think we have a case? And he says, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People are
unauthorized trespassing, right. Putting, basically assaulting your house and putting an unauthorized, things on your house, drilling into a brand new roof. And so we're in the process, we're filing a complaint. And that's what I was reading about before I got on this call.
I see. And have you found the such and such who signed the contract, that person, whatever his?
No, we have no idea who this person is.
So we still we're preparing a suit against a name that we don't even know where they reside.
No, we're not suing that person. We're suing the company that put the solar panel
on that had a contract signed by somebody
yes.
that they had not.
I don't care who this person that signed the contract. I care that this company put this on my house.
Okay. I care who signed the contract because I'm wondering if they got some kind of, I have this story running in
that's kind of what Conrad and I were talking about. And I said, who the hell is this? And
what's their advantage?
And I'm thinking, well, maybe there was somebody that, kind of pretended to be the owner or whatever, and worked it out with the sales reps, and they got a commission. They split the commission, or I have no idea. We're just
right. Or
make up stories.
Is there incentives in your city where, if you show that you installed a system, you get an incentive as a check, or and therefore this person is randomly picking homes that have tenants in them?
It's true.
I don't know. I'm curious. I'm super curious. I'm sorry the end of this story isn't available to us, because
I will. So to be continued.
To be continued, literally.
Yeah, because I always have fun stories. We've had the Stinky Shack, we've had the Murder Dollhouse, we've had so many different things that we took a little bit of break because of COVID here, but we're actually starting to roll again here in 2022. So we should have some funny stories here coming up.
Even some fresh, funny stories. Because I've known Kevin, that my listeners don't know, but maybe they do know. I've known Kevin for 10 years.
Maybe more.
I've known Kevin for quite a while. I've invested with Kevin.
We've partnered before.
And he has presented at my club. I have presented at his club. I remember presenting at your club because I think I presented different clubs in different places, and this has happened to me twice. And one of them was at your club, where they go, "How stupid are LA people when they invest?" I'm like, well, we're actually kind of stupid, actually.
Well, that's the funny thing, and I wanted to talk to you about this.
Okay.
And, because I have so many people that come up to me, because you're a real estate investor, I'm a real estate investor,
yes.
And we came from different walks of life. We came up in it in different ways.
Yeah, we did.
And a lot of people say, I want to be a real estate investor. I'm like, great. And, how much money you got? Right.
Where are you starting? That's right. That's
where are you starting from? Because I started, a lot of people will start with a little bit of money, or at least at zero. I started in the hole.
Right.
And which was really funny. And so a lot of people, I says, there's a lot of ways you can come in and become in real estate. Number one, you can just buy your way into the market. You've got millions of dollars. You're good. You're a real estate investor.
Right. start buying pieces and you're good.
You're good, but you need money, but you also need knowledge. Mm-hmm. You know, and whether you're being mentored by somebody or partnering with somebody that has knowledge, you go to school maybe and learn a little bit. So there's many, many different ways. But if but in many cases, a lot of people have nothing. So where do they start?
Right. So Oliver, are we hearing your story now? Are we finally getting to we didn't meet Oliver's back, I call him Oliver, Kevin Oliver. We didn't read your background.
Well, you want to read that?
So I could read your background. So let's do that for a moment. Let's do that for a moment. And then we can,
we can add in on here.
We can add in on. So you guys know the background. So now our listeners at least know the background of, I've known Kevin for many years, over a decade, and we've done joint ventures, or we worked together. We have, we've been presented at each other's clubs. We have shared many an entertaining real estate story. And one of the things Kevin is known for, of course, is his entertaining real estate stories. It's funny because we'll stand there, Kevin, I do this, right? We'll stand there and Kevin's on one side, I'm on the other, and there's somebody new. And I'm like, so Kevin, tell the blah, blah, blah story. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll tell the stinky shack story, or I'll tell the plant story. I'll tell the machete story, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The machete story is a good one.
Machete story is a good one. Okay. So Kevin is both currently a real estate broker and investor in Bakersfield, California, has been investing for over 15 plus years. He got his start in real estate in the wholesale field, and spent his first 5 years acquiring and marketing properties to investors in California while wholesaling properties. He spent a portion of his career recruiting and training new investors in wholesale and rehab business. Kevin takes the success of his team, his network, very seriously. Has made his work by inspiring many, taking his risks and leading by example. But you're also a real estate broker, but an investor and a wholesaler, and somebody who's worked with other people's money, and a trainer, because I know you have trained in wholesaling, you trained at my meeting. And currently, let's add the newest chapter to Kevin Oliver's story at Oliver and Associates, the real estate team. Tell us your current project.
Well, besides opening up a new branch office on my realtor side and things like that,
cool.
I have the last couple of years gone into politics.
That's right.
And I am currently a county commissioner appointed by the Board of Supervisors here in Kern County. And recently, about a year ago now, I got a call from City Council, and they said, Kevin, we need your help. And I ended up being a city commissioner also. Next venture, I just got through graduating from the Kern Leaders Academy, which is presented by a lot of the big ones, Chevron and a bunch of other folks here, and big companies. And it's headed up by Kern Tax Group. Okay. And I just graduated, and it's invite only. There's 8 people per year that go in through this, and I was one of the 8.
I've never heard of it, so clearly I've never been invited.
Yeah, you should.
No, I'm not in Kern County.
You have to be in Kern County, but we had 2 sitting city councilmen, we had directors, assessors from the assessor's office, so big people. I was like a little person in this room. And but one of the new things that I have coming up is and I haven't formally announced.
Is this your formal announcement? Is this happening right here, right now?
Just for you, Christina. Is that I will be running for City Council Ward 5 here in Bakersfield for 2024.
Woo, woo, woo! Let's hear it.
I don't know if my wife's happy about that.
I'm not your wife. I don't have to deal with the fact that you're never going to be home.
But yes, I've gone more into politics now, and I'm still a real estate investor, still a real estate broker, still running businesses. I own 4 corporations still, and I do some private money lending, so just like you do. And we go back and forth, all the time. But oh boy.
So currently, I'll say so just so people understand, you have, yes, right, you're city commissioner, right? You have your real estate brokerage, where you actually have now 2 offices.
Just one now, because we just we consolidated.
Consolidate. Okay, so now you have one now. You also, I know, have many agents underneath you, and I know you teach to your agents as well.
Yes.
You have your own real estate holdings.
Yes, I do.
Which some which you share with people like Conrad, right? But you have your own real estate portfolio.
And we have four different corporations. Yeah. One's with my wife, one's with Conrad, and I'm actually opening another one, and that's going to be exciting. It's going to be in January, and it's called Mo Money.
Mo Money.
Mo Money LLC. Right. And it was really funny how we came by. It's one of my realtors on my team, and Bernadine is her name, and her husband Daniel. Mm-hmm. And I think you've actually met Bernadine. She's been down to your group before. And, but she's been on my team for a while, been a real estate investor for about 10 years herself. So I think she did about 8 or 9 flips this last year, and made great money. And it's really funny is she said, Kevin, she says, let's do some stuff together. And I said, all right. And their last name is Mateus.
Okay. My
last name is Oliver.
Yes. So
money.
Right. So it's not actually short for more money, although more money would be welcomed.
That's the play on the word.
Exactly.
You got to have fun. It's just like how we came up with Kevin's hat.
I know. Well,
and you know that story.
I don't. I know Kevin. I know Kevin Hat. I'm familiar with the company, right? Right. But because I've worked with it, but
all right. I'm going to tell you this quick story of how, because you know that a lot of times I tell investors last time, if you're going to invest a lot, you're going to do flips, you should have an LLC to protect you or some kind of corporate entity to protect you. And there's short-term and there's long-term for cap gains and stuff. So I separate my long-term and my short-term properties. So I have a flipping corporation and then I have multiple holding corporations. And then we have an umbrella, there's all sorts of different things, the way you can structure it. But how we came up with Kevin's hat was really, really funny. And this is when Conrad and I started. Mm-hmm. And we had a certain amount of group of people that would come to my back patio, and we'd have wine or cocktails, cigars, and talk about real estate. And it went anywhere from music to religion to politics to, of course, really, and everything in between.
Yep.
So no subject was, turned away. But we were sitting there one time, and Conrad, we had done some stuff together. He had loaned me some money, and we had done back and forth, done some things that in regards to that. And he says, Kevin, we should do something more formal. And this next year. And I said, okay. And this is a number of years ago.
Conrad is asking for formal. That's so not
Conrad. This is, I know. Yeah. So this is like, 10 years ago. Right.
Right.
But because Conrad and I have been working it, well, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And so we're sitting there and I says, well, what do you want to do? You want to form a corporation or something? And he says, yeah, we could do that. And I says, well, what do you want to call it? And he comes up and he says, oh, I don't know. We started coming up with different names. And he had Mad Hatter Investments, which is his main corporation. And then he had Sombrero Investments. He had Fedora Investments, Chapeau Investments. So you see a hat theme here.
I see distinctly a hat theme there. Yes, mine is Magnolia, by the way.
Magnolia.
Yeah, a lot of them have Magnolia in the name.
So we were going ahead. So he owned all these different corporations that he was doing. And I had some other corporations that we had. I had Oliver Wyman. We had a few other things that my wife and I had, and other partners had in the time. Well, it was Conrad and myself, another friend of ours, and a Marine Corps friend of mine that was sitting there. And we had already gone through maybe 3.5 bottles of wine. So we were feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And my Marine Corps buddy, he turns over, he's holding this glass, almost falling out of his chair. And he says, Conrad, you have all these, and I'm not going to swear on your camera, but he went frickin',
blank.
Yeah, blankety blank hats. Kevin doesn't have a blankety blank hat.
He needs a hat. Kevin
needs a hat. You should call it Kevin's blank hat.
Right. Well, we can't put the blank in there legally, so let's just call it.
I know. And I'm like, we're laughing, right? So we continue on to different subjects. So the next day, Conrad and I are on the phone. And I said, Conrad, I said, what do you want to call this thing? I said, we can't call it Kevin's blank hat.
Right.
And I said, what about just Kevin's hat?
You call it that.
And he says, yeah, I like that. And so that's how Kevin got a hat.
So congratulations, Kevin, that you have your own hat.
Cheers.
It was quite a progress. Cheers. Good for you. Funny thing is, I've rarely seen you wear a hat.
I don't wear hats. That's the funny thing. I do ever so often. I do wear it for the Army Navy game because I'm prior Navy. Yeah. And so my good buddies in the Army, I work a lot with veterans. And so I wear my USS Kitty Hawk hat and my Navy shirt when I'm at the Navy game because go Navy.
Go Navy. Absolutely, Kevin. So here's the thing. So part of this is part of the interview process is establishing what you do. So I really want to understand, what had you run for any CD position at all? What had you even want to do that? I'm like, Kevin, you're already a wholesaler and a dad and a flipper and an investor and running. Oh, by the way, you also happen to be a real estate agent who runs an actual agency. Why did you need one more thing on your plate? Explain this to me.
I got roped into this too. You know what? I don't choose my directions in life a lot of times. I never wanted to be a realtor. And I never. And
yet you succeed at them, Kevin. And yet you succeed. I'm just saying.
It's a funny story how I became a realtor too.
Okay, hold on, I'm going to tell a story first. So I was here at a meeting just recently here in Pasadena, and I was talking to this very sweet girl, and she was talking about how she's investing and she's trying to find a fourplex. She's trying to do this, she's trying to do that. And then I said, and she said, she's up in Bakersfield. I'm like, oh, you're in Bakersfield. I'm like, and your agent hasn't told you X, Y, and Z? No. And so your agent told you da da da? No. I'm like, I know this guy. She's like, yeah. I said, I know this guy. So who are you working with? And she says, well, I'm working with this sub guy to this guy. I don't know. His name is Kevin. Oh, Kevin Oliver. And I'm like, well, that's the person you should be working with. And so I specifically told her, I said, you need to get a hold of Kevin. So I have told her that she's supposed to rope you, Kevin, into having lunch to hear her story, because the sub agent's doing great, but we need a little Kevin creativity on this one.
I don't know if I've heard from her yet or not, but
you probably have not, and I don't have her phone number. But if you hear from her and she says, this crazy chick Christina said, I have to talk to you, then you'll go, yeah, Christina told me.
Okay.
Lunch.
Okay. That's
one story. But I just want to let you know, your reputation so exceeds you that here I am in Pasadena talking to somebody investing in Bakersfield. And
did she know who I was?
I know Kevin Oliver. Yes, she knows who you are.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
just telling you. She knows who Kevin Oliver is. That's how far your reputation goes. Okay, so now you can talk about how you get roped into things, you poor dear.
Okay, so real estate broker, realtor, business owner, philanthropist. I give a lot. I'm in Rotary. I do a lot of giving up here. Help start different, charity type things. So I'm very involved. I was involved with my church and stuff like that. But I'm sitting at a private club with a good friend of mine that runs some of the local radio stations up here. Okay. And we're having a cigar, and I think he was smoking a pipe or something. But he was the chairman of one of the commissions up here. And he says, Kevin, I'd like you to get you on this commission. And I said, well, tell me about this. What is this thing? And he told me a little bit. And I said, well, that's interesting. He says, I think you would be a really perfect, because you're a business owner, a good, you're not, you're conservative, but you're not so far right leaning, you're crazy, and you're not a left-wing nutcase. You're kind of middle right.
You're middle ground. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I says, how does one go about doing this? And he says, well, you have to be appointed by the board of supervisors. And I'm like, oh, well, I know most of the board of supervisors, being a business owner and things like that. And I says, well, I said, I might have time for that. And I owed this guy a favor. So yes, I know.
You owed him a favor.
I owed him a favor.
You're not supposed to hand out favors, Kevin.
And I think, I don't know. I think I got screwed. No, I'm kidding. Of
course you're kidding.
Yeah. But so I go and I says, all right. I tell him, I'm going to throw him under the bus. His name's Jeremy.
Okay.
And I said, Jeremy, I says, you've been a friend of mine for many, many years. I have a lot of respect for you. And I said, if you really need help and you think I'm the one, I will help you.
Right.
And he says, great. And I think under his breath, he was saying, sucker.
Got you in there.
But he says, you just got to fill out all this paperwork. He says, go. When I had to go and fill out this paperwork and everything else, submit it to the county, right. Which I did. And and you have to have references and everything else. And so him as the chairman went before the supervisors and talked to him and said, hey, you need to get this. And then I got a call from the chief of staff from one of the supervisors. Set up a meeting with him, talked with him, and he says, hey, you're spoke very highly of, and we're appointing you. And I said, oh, okay.
Okay. What am I
so
supposed to do?
I did it. I went in, I raised my hand, and I said, because you have to be sworn in.
Yeah. You have to.
And I did. And I'm laughing. I'm down at the city, at the county building. And I says, the last time I got sworn in, they handed me a uniform. I said, you're not going to hand me a uniform, are you?
Sure. I was a lot younger then, by the way.
So that's how I kind of got roped into that. But you know what's really funny is I've been on it for a number of years now. And this year I'm the vice president of the commission. And I think I hope our president remains president this next year, but if not, I will probably end up being president.
Okay.
Or chairman. Great.
That is more work. You know that, right? It
is more work. But you know what? I had to chair one of our larger trials this year on our commission and everything. So, it can be done. It's just, and it's really funny is that, I laugh now, is that Donnie Youngblood is our sheriff of Kern County. And very, very powerful man here in Kern County. Obviously, like you have a sheriff in LA County, right?
We do. I have no idea who it is, but we do.
Yep. Villa Lobos or whatever his name is. I don't know. I see him on TV ever so often, the sheriff of Los Angeles County. But we have Donnie Youngblood, and he's a pretty good sheriff. I like him. I voted for him. And he's really tough on crime and really good. So what we oversee sometimes is termination of some of our deputies when they do something wrong or whatever, and then they're appealing it. They will come before us as a judge. And it's really funny sometimes is that I think I'm the only one that actually kicked our sheriff out of the room. And I was laughing about it because the defense attorney and the county council were arguing and we were deposing the sheriff. And I says, Sheriff Youngblood, I said, you're going to have to leave the room for a moment, please, while we get this sorted out. And he says, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
He did. And so I felt really bad. And I went out later. I said, sorry, Sheriff, for kicking me out of the room. He's laughing, but so I laugh about kicking the sheriff out of the room.
Sure, because how often you get to kick the sheriff out of the room of your own city, right? Like your own county, right? Like, that doesn't happen very often. All right, so let's move on to a story that teaches. So you've done a lot of projects and you've had a lot of interesting things happen in your projects. You have actually been an inspiration for me to share more of my own stories as entertainingly as I can, because they can be so illustrative of the
I like to teach by stories sometimes.
You do, actually. You actually really enjoy teaching by stories. And I'm glad you know that about yourself, because that's what you're known for. So tell us a real estate story that you went through where you learned to be a better investor at the end. So tell the story, but also tell what you learned, how to make you better.
How to make me better.
Because you become a pretty savvy investor, which is why I would do projects with you, right? Just saying. You can see the gray on the side. It isn't just because you've got enough gray hair that you know.
Yeah, this is this flip, and then this is this other rehab.
Learned, right? So clearly you're not a punk anymore. So tell us a story where you learned an important lesson in investing in real estate.
I learned an important lesson. Oh gosh, I think I'm trying to think what kind of, there's so many lessons.
So many lessons.
But one of the bigger ones, I don't know if it had to do with the flip. It had to do with a partnership at one time. And we were flipping a lot of homes. This is way before Conrad.
Yeah.
And this
younger man before all the gray hair.
Before the gray. And this is why when you're partnering with somebody, you need to truly know character, really know this your person that you're getting involved with. And I had started working with this other person, and
shall remain nameless.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of flips, and we made some money, and it was fine. And then we were doing a lot of online stuff. We were doing some trustee sales, acquiring at this. This is probably, 2009, 2010, maybe time frame. Yeah. So where was the market going? Down. At that point.
It's still going down. Yep. It bottomed
in 12.
Bottomed and then started to return in 13. Yeah.
Correct. And so this might have been 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range. So we were flattening out a little bit. And so it was a good time for doing some flips. We were getting them at a discount because people they were getting rid of them and stuff. So, but that's irrelevant. So I get in, we end up buying this one on auction.com in Kentucky on accident.
Yeah, I'm like, Kentucky? I'm like, I've never heard of you investing in Kentucky.
I did. I won.
See, now that makes sense. By accident. Those two now go together for me. So I'm like, no, you've never talked about it.
So we did one. And we actually made money on it. I think we made 10, 15,000 on it. So, not a big deal. But it was small, but we made money. But so we go ahead, and it was a joke. We kind of said, just bid $5,000 on it. Right? We're bidding on different properties. Well, we got it. And I'm like,
now what
the heck? So we go ahead, we're like, all right, let's go ahead. Let's get an agent back there. I didn't fly back, but my partner at that time flew back to Kentucky and went ahead and he set the teams up. We did the rehab back there and everything. Now he came back and we were doing the rehab remote. But we got it put into escrow and sold it and made a little bit of money, even though it was an accident. We really didn't. And it was a very cheap house. I think we sold it for like $100,000, $120,000 or something like that. Very cheap, small house. And but all in, I think we were in it maybe 80, 90 grand or whatever. We ended up making 20 grand or something. So I can't remember the exact figures, but. The problem is, and I don't know what happened back there, but when he came back, he says, well, we're doing this way, and it's going to be my way or the highway. And I went, what?
This is after the sale?
Yeah, after the sale, but we had a company together.
Right. So the house happened. He went out there for the close. He came back. Something happened, and he had a different point of view.
Says, you know what? This is the way we're going to run the company, and it's my way or the highway, and I don't care what you say. And I says, well, I guess it's going to be the highway.
Because it's going to have to be highway then.
And I actually ended up, so many things were going wrong at that point, is that, I think I walked away from about $60,000.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better to walk away and leave that money on the table than it is to stay. Yeah. And that was a lesson learned. And I didn't have any partners for a long, long time. I didn't want to play in the sandbox. I took my marbles and I wanted to stay at home and do my own thing at that point because I was so hurt. Yeah. And then Conrad happened.
That's not Conrad's personality at all.
I love Conrad.
Yeah,
Conrad and I have made great money together. And
very funny. And
now we are dissolving things. The chapter is coming to a close with me and Conrad.
Oh no.
Yeah, okay. And it's all good. It's all good. We've had many, many years together. We have a couple of properties left that we're going to be liquidating this next year. Our accountant says we can't sell anymore this year.
Even though the market's going crazy in Bakersfield.
I know. And so we can't sell anymore. So we have a couple more properties. One, he's going to buy me out of one.
Yeah.
And then there's two others we're just going to list and sell.
Okay.
So we're liquidating all the different hats.
Yeah.
And because he wants to retire.
I was going to say there must be some.
Yeah, there's a reason he wants to retire. He is 60. How old is he now? 63, 64. And he wants to retire. He wants to, the next 2 years, he wants to go travel the US.
Okay.
And we have another friend. We call him D'Artagnan. He's part of the Four Musketeers.
Yes, I know D'Artagnan. I mean, I know the character D'Artagnan.
Yes, but there was four of us that were always on my back patio. And there's a whole story on Conrad's blog that talks about this. And it's really funny. But the one we call D'Artagnan, moved to Colorado and does a lot of investing back there and has done very, very well. He ended up buying a mobile home park and he wants Conrad to come in and help manage it.
Okay.
And stay there for a little while he's traveling.
Okay.
So he'll manage it for a few months and then he'll travel the rest of the year. And then, so they're going back together and work some things together. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. It's also kind of sad because you guys have done a lot of business.
Oh, I know. But you know what? We can still work together.
He doesn't act like he's 60. He acts like he's 35. I am.
Tell him that.
Tell him that. He'll act even younger. No, Conrad's funny to me because he's very young at heart and he's very funny and he's very, seems very light, but he's not confused.
No.
Don't get confused.
No, I've told him he's confused a few times.
It's actually not that, in the end result, he's actually not that confused.
Yeah. So the lesson learned there is you need to be very, very careful in choosing your partners. I know you and I know you're very careful on who you work with.
Yeah.
I feel very blessed to be able to work on some transactions with you, but that trust doesn't come lightly.
No, it doesn't. No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's one of my favorite Kevin stories, and I will share this, it's actually you and Conrad, we were in this deal together, right? And you and Conrad, we had this house that you guys were working on and it wasn't going to turn out right. And what I love about it was that you guys called me and said, hey, we're not going to be able to pay you off in full. Can we talk?
Yeah.
Here's what we would like to do. What works for you? And it was like way ahead of time. It wasn't a surprise. It wasn't at close of escrow. It wasn't at payoff. Like it was way ahead of time. It was completely managed well, very professionally, kept me involved very early, updated me when I needed to be updated. It was very easy to go, okay, we're going to do this. And this is the plan. And then eventually you paid me, you kept your word.
Yeah,
right?
and I think you actually made more money.
And I actually made more money in the end result. So, I mean, how can I be upset about it, right? And I got a complete payoff plus some. And I just think in that story, what's important, what I've learned in dealing and choosing partnerships, what I've learned is that that's what I need. It's not. So now, Kevin, one of my favorite questions for people I would potentially even loan money to, like just even be involved in their project in any way, shape or form, whether it's a true JV or whether it's just a loan, whether it's a loan because they still have my cash, right? Or it's a JV where we're actually having cash and we're having partnership conversations, right? Is tell me something you failed at.
Yeah.
You can't tell me a story about how you failed and what it is that you did to make it right.
And I don't know if we failed on that one. It's just that we had
a project that failed. How's that?
Yeah, it didn't go the way that we initially figured, but we had a secondary
solution.
It became successful. Yeah.
And it became successful. And you had a secondary solution. The secondary solution worked.
And that's very, very important in any kind of investing, is that a lot of times when I'm buying, and I know you do this as well, if I'm wholesaling, that's great because we might want to take a look at something to wholesale or maybe rehab flip. But it may not turn out right as a flip because the markets change sometimes or something happens during the course. Maybe there's something that you didn't see. You have to change the entire electrical, you have to change the entire whatever, and it puts you outside your margins so that you're not going to make any money. You'll lose money if you flip it. So maybe you have to hold it, turn it into a rental for a little bit of time. And cash flow it, hopefully. So there's all sorts of different things. So you have your primary, your secondary, your tertiary. contingencies. And that's very, very important as an investor, that you have these different solutions. And it's risk management is really what it is.
It is.
And I think that anybody that wants to become a real estate investor better learn that really quick.
Yeah, because I mean, and that goes right into sort of the creative financing or creative solution problem, you know, problem solving. Like you really need to be, because if you get married to one plan and only one plan, and there are times when, how do I put this? There are times when the project only has one plan.
True.
Right? Yeah. There are times when the project only has like one plan. This is the one plan. And maybe, I don't know if you've run into this, but in the end result, if I find a project that only has one plan, that's really risky to me.
It is.
If it's only one plan, you can only flip it for whatever reason, whether it's your financing, whether it's the price point of the purchase versus rental. But if you only have one plan and you have to do that one plan, it's riskier than something you can purchase, which you could wholesale, which you could rehab if you choose to keep it, which you could rent if it doesn't rehab. At least it's something close to break even versus at a huge negative loss that you can get financing on it.
Yeah.
So there are all these things that could make it where it's a one solution only, but you want to have contingencies. So what's your opinion? If you've got something that's like a one solution only, we have to buy it, hard money, we have to flip it, we don't have any other contingencies, we have no capacity to bail ourselves out or to get greater investor money in order to solve the problem, right? It's like one solution.
Yep. So yeah, you have to, and I learned that from a wonderful lady, Margie Cromwell, and one of my mentors, and being and she's out of Ohio and Cincinnati area. And I met her originally when I was going through school. She was one of my instructors, taught me how to wholesale. And there's funny stories with her and I in regards to that, but that's for another time. But we were talking about this one story, and there was all these very, very wealthy investors. I mean, multimillionaires, and you would know who some of these people are. There was Russ Whitney, there was Robert Kiyosaki, there was a few folks, and they were talking. We were talking about this story. It had all of these real estate investor greats, that were sitting around, and they had this island under, contract. And they were talking about, oh, we can develop it, we can do this. And there's all these just brilliant ideas and stuff like that. And sometimes the simplest solution is the answer. And, they were trying to figure out what to do. And Margie just came and says, just wholesale the damn thing. And everybody kind of looked around. They're like, yeah.
Makes sense, actually.
And they actually made more money.
And actually made the most money out of all the scenarios. Okay, so Kevin, tell me, what does financial freedom mean to you?
Well, financial freedom means different things to different people.
Exactly. That's why I'm asking what it means to you.
Mine is being able to live and have time with my family and not have to worry. And do what I enjoy, whether it be politics or otherwise. But that's financial freedom. My wife and I have recently downsized. We bought our house outright. I have no more mortgages. I have, I got a new Tesla, by the way. I like it. But we're able to do all sorts of different things now. That, and it's really funny how I started. I started $130,000 in debt.
We didn't go into that story at all.
High interest credit card debt, a wife, 2 young children, 2 car payments, a mortgage, and no job. And that's how I started as a real estate investor. And there's whole ways to do that on how to become a real estate investor with no money. And a lot of it's luck and timing.
And effort and focus.
And it is hard work.
Hard work.
A lot of people say, oh, I want to be a real estate investor, but they're not willing to work for it.
Yeah. You gotta work.
Yeah. But financial freedom, I says, it's being able to be able to choose what you want to do and not have to worry about keeping the lights on.
Kevin, thank you so very much. If anybody wants to get a hold of you because they want to use you for one of your multitudes of talents, whether they want to hear your stories, whether they want to be instructed by you, whether they want to be a real estate agent, whether they want to bring you a deal, right? Anything in Kern County, I think is pretty much you're open to taking a look at.
Yeah.
Right? Whether they want to give you money because you.
And I'm going to start looking on the coast too, Central Coast.
Central Coast, right? Oh, that's a good idea, Central Coast.
Because wine.
Oh, I don't drink wine, but hey, it still sounds like a good opportunity for investing. So anybody who wants to contact you for one of the many talents that you have, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to do that?
They can call me direct, obviously, 661-808-3444. I think if you scroll up a little bit, it'll have my information on there. If you go to about, there it is. Yay, there it is. My phone number, 808-3444. Or you can email me at that address there, kevinoliver.realtor@gmail.com, or go to my website, yourhome661.com. And but I usually answer my phone pretty quickly. So, and that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. I always, truly always love seeing you, talking with you. I think you're presenting at my club later in 2022.
And I think in January, what our topic should be is how to become a real estate investor, and we'll just tell them my history or something.
Maybe. I don't know. We haven't come up with that topic yet.
Come up with a topic. Let's talk about it.
Well, we will work that out. So clearly we'll have to have another conversation about that because I still have somebody who's waiting for me at this moment. So
is it the one with little arms?
It's a little, yeah. She's been cut from this video, so you guys didn't get to see her.
Oh.
But we were interrupted by that, but that's okay. It's okay. We'll leave the listeners wondering what the little floofy fluff is that we were talking about. But it was
cute. She takes after mama.
Yes, she's my 12-year-old and she takes after mama. So she needed to interrupt our podcast recording here, but that's okay because, gotta love her anyways. Kevin, thank you very much. Kevin Oliver, so appreciate your time, your effort, your expertise, your stories, and your generosity of spirit. Just amazing.
Thank you, Christina. It's always a pleasure. You're one of my favorites.
You are also one of my favorites. I look forward to seeing you in person at my meeting in January.
Absolutely. Let's talk this next week.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
How you do? Bye.